So the story of Itche the Shiker. I wanted to try Google, see if I could find out who the Rosh Yeshiva Chaim Chaikel, Rosh Yeshiva of Chaya Olam. I'm sure we could find out through some effort his last name. So you remember the story. The story is it's the chassan of his grandchild. He's bedridden. They're talking about amputating one leg for sure, and possibly the second. And at the wedding, he was at Rosh Yeshiva, and many B'nai Torah were in attendance. He asked to speak, and there's utter silence in the wedding hall. And he relates how as a young boy, on this winter night, when a poor wagon driver had requested the boys to stop their learning and help him free his horse that was strangling. So initially they didn't, and then he came in again begging because he couldn't find anybody else. And they came to a conclusion after their pilpul that it's mutter, but it was too late. And in all of this, Rabbi Itche, sleeping in the back of the room, he calls out to them, "Boys, go and help." And Chaim Chaikel mocked him. Itche, since when did you become a pesach? And Itche, the Shiker, the so-called drunkard, had said, if you don't go, you won't be able to go. And this was dismissed as just, of course, nonsense. And then the story continues how one day the Chaim Chaikel is informed by his friend that Itche is looking for him. And okay, so what do you want, Itche? He tells him tonight he's going to die and he wants him to be there. No one knew or cared where he lived, and it was the end of town in a ramshackle hut. And Chaim Chaikel figures, okay, I'll take my Gemara, I'll go and learn anyway. And he comes there and he's learning for hours and nothing's happening. He's about to leave. And Chaim Chaikel says, please stay at 4 o'clock. My neshama will leave. And moreover, he asked to be buried in the cemetery next to a renowned Gaon and Tzaddik. To which Chaim Chaikel responds, what do you say? You don't even put on film. And you're asking to be buried next to the Tzaddik. And Chaim Chaikel's response was, I don't put on film. Go, look at that box over there. That's what we're up to. So I approached the box, and to my astonishment, I found a pair of beautiful tefillin. And my amazement only increased, because had I not seen what I saw, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have believed it. I said to him, he sees these beautiful tefillin. So I said to Itche, but even if I'll tell the Chevra Kadisha that they should be buried there, they won't listen to me. So you put on film, it's beautiful, but said the Itche to me, under the box, there's a small box. Open it and you'll see my manuscripts. Show them to the Rav and the Chevra Kadisha, and they will fulfill my request. I looked at the manuscripts of the pages, and I realized that there was deep Kabbalah and other matters that I did not understand. But now I did understand that lying before me was a holy Jew and a hidden tzaddik. At exactly 4 a.m., his soul departed. I ran directly to the Rav, 4 in the morning, into the Chevra Kadisha, and I told them the whole story, and I showed them his writings. They too, like I, were in a state of great astonishment. But the problem was that they knew with certainty that there was no room left there to bury someone next to the Gaon. The tzaddik had been buried there, it seems, a long time earlier. And it's many years that they're only burying people in the new section of the cemetery, because there's no place in the old cemetery. But Itche is asking, Reb Itche. So we went there, and to our great amazement, we found there was exactly enough place to bury one person. The next day, the whole town was in an uproar over the story, and everybody turned out a very great funeral happened in his honor. And when the Rosh Yeshiva, end of story. Now, At the wedding, he's telling the story. When he finished telling his story, Reb Chaim Chaikel, the Rosh Yeshiva, began to cry bitterly, tearing hearts, and he concluded, I have no doubt that which I'm suffering in my legs is from the curse of this tzaddik. Everybody at the wedding cried with him with great compassion, and the whole simcha turned into a moment of sorrow. Now, this story is related, if you recall, by this Rabbi Friedman to Reb Fola Khan, Rabbi Yel's father. He said, I too was very moved by the story, and after the wedding, I couldn't contain myself. And I decided to write a letter to the Rebbe. And I wrote the whole story. And I asked the Rebbe that he should arouse mercies on high for this Yid, that he should be healthy. After some time, I got a letter from the Rebbe in which he writes to me, tell the Rav that he should accept upon himself the takana, that which was enacted by the Frierdiker Rebbe, to learn every day chitas, chumash, tilim, and tanya. And not only he should undertake to learn, but he should ask all of his friends and those who would listen to him that he has influence on. And he adds in brackets, he had already many Talmidim over the years, that they too should start to learn chitas, and in the schus that he will go in the ways of the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Hashem will grant him that he should be able to go begashmi. When I got this letter, I went to the Rosh Yeshiva, I told him the whole story, and I showed him the letter. When he read it, he was in great simcha. And with great joy, he kissed the letter. I asked him, would you please return the letter to me? And he begged me, please let me have the letter for some time, and so it remained with him. Half a year later, I came to visit him, and I found him already sitting at a table. About amputation, they weren't talking about it all anymore. That was already off the table. And now they're talking about therapy and how to walk. And slowly but surely, his situation improved. Now, Rav Fola Khan concludes the postscript to the story. He said, this Rabbi Friedman, I know for a long time, from the time he lived in Bnei Brak. And he used to come visit me in Ramat Gan many times. And this Rabbi Friedman himself was an author of a sefer called Tzidkas Tzaddik. And in fact, the sefer that he wrote is about it's all about the way to write the letter tzaddik in the Sefer Torah, which is a whole debate in the Achronim. He goes into the detail of how his position, how the tzaddik is written. And the Fola Khan concludes, after I heard the story from him, I told the story to everyone, and many from Anash went to visit Reb Chaim Chaikel in Yerushalayim, and they said that when they would come to visit him, and he would talk to them about chitas, and he would say, please, do me a favor, learn chitas, this is my refuah. I just want to conclude that, add a little PS to the story. First of all, of course, it's a beautiful story in its own right and points to the importance of learning chitas. But you should know that the bracha that the Rebbe would give, the Iker is the bracha. And the means for it would change. Whatever the Rebbe is now koching in, as it were, so that was the shah, the gate for the brachas for people that turned to him at that time. So there were many times the answer was Rambam. There were many times the answer was a letter in the Sefer Torah. Depending on what in heaven the Rebbe is being mamshech all the brachas in the world for a particular mivtzah, which now becomes the main mivtzah. So that is the vehicle for the bracha. So at that time, the Rebbe was, and for the early years, the Rebbe was strongly encouraging the study of chitas. That was the call of the hour. That was the emphasis, and therefore through chitas that the brachas were were drawn down. Remind me, we're already running out of time tomorrow to tell you a further story that illustrates that it's not so much the instruction per se, but because the instruction is the channel for the bracha at that time. Story tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Okay, friends, let's daven.